The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the agenda as presented.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Give a second.
Second.
Oh, second, excuse me.
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Your votes, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First up is activity compensation with Mr. Alexander.
Okay, so, basically what we've been working on, and really Mr. Kaiser has been talking, we've been working on this since talking about it last spring. We've gotten kind of to a point where we're one of the only schools left that does not pay people who take tickets or do volleyball lines or keep book or keep score clock or things like that at games for the people who come and do that. Now, we do grant an activity pass after people do that for 3 games. We go ahead and grant them an activity pass. And we'd like to continue to do that. But for years, we've kind of been in a position where we thought, well, it would be way too expensive to try and cover all of those things if we did it. Mr. Kaiser started doing some calculations, putting pen to pencil. If we did it in shifts versus if we did it per hour, if we did it per hour, it would be way too expensive. But if we do it in shifts, then we can make it work. So when he went through his estimates, started looking at kind of what other schools are paying and did some comparisons. And if he looked at paying like $20 per shift for a ticket taker, and then $40 per shift for line judges, score clocks, or announcers, because those come with a different level of complexity than taking tickets, then we could, we came up with somewhere in the $7,000 to $8,000 range to do it throughout the course of the year. So last year, at the end of the year, we ran into, I think it was I don't remember, it was a baseball or a soccer game, one game where we absolutely could not get people signed up to do that, to take tickets and to do whatever we needed them to do. And so they offered to pay them, and within minutes they had that many people signed up to do it. So I think just in the essence of people's time being worth something, it makes sense to do this. And we'd like to move forward with it, try it for a year as kind of a year pilot program, and budget for it as we're moving forward, put it in the activities account, track it, make sure that it's not something that totally blows the budget, and but something that we think is important for our employees that we ask to sign up, or volunteers that we've been asking for years, that it's just getting harder and harder to do, and we can value people's time, then it's worth it for that amount of money.
I don't think you can do it for a year and then not do it after that
Right.
again.
It'd be tough.
I just can't see that working.
But if other schools are doing it, I don't see why we wouldn't.
Would they get a pass also and the pay?
Yeah, I think that's still just a nice thing to do for
Yeah.
people that want to give their time. So that'd be our plan.
Good question.
Does it happen for all sports?
Yeah,
Is it activities?
it's for all activities.
Okay.
Yes. So if ticket takers take tickets at a play, then yeah, they get paid for that shift too. And then there's a different rate for, it'd be like a double pay for a tournament rate. So if you take tickets for a tournament, which is like all day, that would be.
Who keeps track of that? That sounds like a nightmare to me.
Well, they would have to sign in and sign out. It'd be Rachel.
And Rachel does she has kind of a tracking document because she tracks it right now, just trying to figure out how to get everything covered. She does a very nice job of being
And so
very
she would-
organized.
She would be the one that would turn in the sheet of who gets paid what.
Yeah.
And are
Yes.
they paid once a month? Or-
It would be, if they are an employee, it would be once a month because it would be right along with payroll.
Right.
If they
So it's
are,
taxable?
Mhm.
yes, yep. If they are not an employee, that would be paid once a month too. We just do that on the 20th, that check. Yep.
And that's through a 1099, like pay referees and so on. So,
Okay.
yeah, if they're employees, it'll go right through payroll like everything sign him up,
Mhm.
and he can take the tickets, and it could be non-taxed.
Yeah.
Do it too, but.
Or it might be taxable to them on their income tax.
Right.
Yes.
Still
But
reportable.
Still reportable.
We wouldn't be paying social security taxes or anything like that.
Mhm.
Is that all?
Yeah, we just
Sounds
wanted
good.
to let you know that we think that that's important to move forward with.
Now Dr. Nielsen's gonna talk about district strategic plan update year 5 goals.
Okay, so you have a document coming around that highlights our year 5 goals. We met last week Monday and had a great start of our strategic planning for the next iteration. However, we know we still have work to do on our current strategic plan. So, you have all 5 goals listed, and then you have the strategies that we are working on underneath that goal. As we continue to look at this goal, there are still components that we still need to work on, that we still need to address. So the following document highlights what we are going to attack. As we start looking at strategy 1, facilities, safety, and infrastructure, we will work to evaluate how to ensure safe solutions for the middle school entrance. That has been one of those things that we know on the safety audit every single year. Bruce Lang stops by and says, you know the middle school entrance. You know the middle school entrance. And so we really do need to continue to look for what are those solutions, what do they cost, how can we attack that. And then the other thing is focus on developing an AI playbook for students and staff. Artificial intelligence is not going to go away, but how do we make sure that students understand, or what are the parameters with students, what are the parameters with staff? So we will talk about a staff AI policy too, because we do have a student AI policy, but this playbook will give you more of the details with artificial intelligence. Strategy 2, looking at student well-being and belonging, we will focus on strong implementation of Character Strong and developing resources for family and supporting strong character development at home. So we purchased Character Strong. We have that as our Tier 1, K-8, and we're really going to look at making sure that we have that implementation going very well, but also figuring out what resources can we provide families to help support what we are already doing during the school day. For strategy 3, this is regarding recruiting and retention for staff. We will focus on finding ways to share our story. We continue to talk about how do we share our story, how do we share our story, how do we share our story. And that is something that we need to make sure we put at the forefront, because how do we do it on our website, our Facebook, but also how are we grabbing maybe visuals such as videos, video clips. How do we make sure that our story is out there and people understand what we do? Because if we don't sell ourselves, no one else is. Strategy 4, focusing on that high quality instruction for all classrooms. We are pushing instructional models. We know that before COVID, we had a real alignment to, and we have always been aligned to the Marzano instructional model, because that's what our evaluation system is. But before COVID, we pinpointed specific elements of the model that we were going to work on. So we were going to work on identifying similarities and differences and using that strategy in our classroom. This year, we are focusing on that again, because we know that we have to have strong instruction in our classroom in order to see stronger student success. So that is what we are looking at, and our buildings have been pushed to make sure that the instructional model is set, and then continue working on it, continuing to evaluate it, to identify what we are doing well and where we need to improve. And then lastly, strategy 5 pushes our focus to continue to develop our strong MTSS, our multi-tiered systems of support. We've done a great job. We need to continue to make sure that what we have, that for the students, that 1, we have strong Tier 1. 2, if our students are not getting that Tier 1, what are we doing in those interventions? And so I know we have some things that we're putting in place, but really monitoring that fidelity to make sure it actually works. So those are the things, having our systems continue to be defined so that when one of us leaves, the system still stays. Because that's why you develop that MTSS, is that you have something so set in stone that it keeps rolling even when the people are no longer here. So that is our strategic plan. We have a lot to work on, and excited to continue moving it forward. But this is year 5 of the plan, so it will be good.
Thank you.
Yes. So AQuest is a school's report card. AQuest stands for a quality educational system for today and tomorrow. It's a report card and it is receiving a little bit of an overhaul. So as you have this document in front of you, it is color-coded. You also notice that there are percentages based upon the building that you're in. So you can see status is one of the indicators that this report card will focus on. Status is where our students are, how proficient they are on the assessments. As you move down, you tie proficiency improvement. Did we improve from last year to this year? Have our students made gains is with that proficiency improvement. And proficiency improvement is 6th grade to 6th grade. So last year 6th graders to this year 6th graders. Student growth is 6th grade to 7th grade. So that's what that indicator focuses on. There's a combined graduation rate. Post-secondary readiness, combined graduation rate is really looking at that four-year and that 7-year. Putting strong emphasis on that 4-year, but that 7-year does count a little bit. Post-secondary readiness is in there as well. Post-secondary readiness includes a lot of different things. It includes the number of students that are in AP, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, or dual credit courses. Students that earn the seal of biliteracy, which I know that Mr. Stengel and Salome have been working on it, and we're going to have students taking that assessment. They successfully complete 2 intermediate or capstone courses in CTE cluster programs. They complete a work-based learning experience, or they meet, exceed on the ACT in ELA, math, and science. So there's a lot that goes into that post-secondary readiness, and if a kid meets one, that means he's good to go. So if a child completes that CTE pathway, but maybe doesn't score proficient on the ACT, they still count for us because they completed a pathway. They look at the science proficiency. Where are we at with our proficiency level? And also the science growth. English language proficiency. Are we improving that English language acquisition for our EL students? Chronic absenteeism reduction. That is another area that they look at. Participation score, and that the last 2 are really a small piece of the puzzle of only 1% of your overall. But participation score, making sure that all kids participate in all assessments. And then that student discipline, that again is something that they are looking at. How many students are out of school, suspended, or expelled are the 2 areas that they look at with that. So the nice thing about this classification, the revamp, is that they really are focused on that continuous improvement. As schools, so this year we ended up getting a view into what our scores could have possibly been. In November, the day before Thanksgiving, that Wednesday, is when everything will be released. So that's when all of our data is released. All this information will be released on that day for the public. So as it starts getting released, I will have more information that I can share. But they give you the areas of focus. This is exactly what we want high-quality systems to be built around. And so if there's an area where maybe we are a 1 and not a 3, because 1 needs improvement, a 2 is good, 3 is great, 4 is excellent, we can figure out, okay, what systems do we need to put in place? If our chronic absenteeism rate is not where we want it, maybe it's at a 1, and we are not seeing improvements, what do we need to do differently? If we look at, that post-secondary readiness, and maybe we don't have enough kids going through that CTE pathway, how do we work with our counselors? How do we work with that scheduling component? How do we work with the teachers to make sure, or even looking at our courses, do we have the pathways that our kids need and want? So those are some things that we are looking at with this system, but it's focused around that continuous improvement. It's focused around identifying areas of need in our school system and challenging us to figure out how to continue to push forward.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Artificial intelligence.
so yeah, we're gonna kind of tag teams. When you have a policy in front of you that, again, comes written by legal counsel, we've talked to other schools that have adopted this policy. We have looked at it, and as you know, and as you heard Dr. Nielsen say, artificial intelligence is something that it's here, it's not going away, and we can't play the ostrich roll and duck our head in the sand and pretend it's not there, because it is. So we have to adapt, like we have with every piece of technology that's come our direction, whether it was the calculator and whenever that came our way, or whether it was the computer or the internet or whatever. Education has been the leader a lot of times in adapting to whatever technology evolves. So we will have to continue with artificial intelligence to learn about it, and also how to teach our students to use it and use it appropriately. Also, as Dr. Nielsen said, we do have a policy relating to staff already in regards, or students in regards to artificial intelligence, but we don't have one for staff. So it's time that we address that and make sure that we do it thoughtfully. There is one piece of this policy, I will be honest with you, that we have looked at that we're not completely comfortable with, because it could change significantly from year to year, depending on what the companies that produce artificial intelligence, what's the word I'm looking for, artificial intelligent bots come up with. And so it could change from company to company. So, and that is really on page 1, where it says, it's down towards the bottom, where it says staff may not use any AI tool with students for student-facing activities or in connection with confidential information unless the tool has been approved by the district for that specific use. We're okay with the first part of it. It says staff may not use an AI tool with students for student-facing activities or in connection with confidential information. But the part where it says unless it's been approved by the district for specific use is a little bit concerning, just from the standpoint that I don't know that we'll be able to ever make that fit with all the changes that can come forward with artificial intelligence. So we need to investigate that a little further, I think, on our part. It's something for you to think about too as we move through the process of adopting this policy, and what are you comfortable with as a board in terms of it. But the key factor in all of this artificial intelligence has got, the number 1 priority has got to be to maintain the confidentiality of our students and our staff and the student information that we hold. That's got to be the number 1 key factor. So, and that's what the policy is designed to do, is and make sure everybody understands the importance of that.
So we had the same thing at the hospital where we knew we couldn't, get everything approved, but, and I'll have to find out from our IT department, they were able to put something in place where if there was any patient information that was put in, so say I'm typing a letter to say that Jackie Nielsen now has a cancer diagnosis, for example, it would block out her name, so it wasn't going to the cloud that ChatGPT or any of the AI tools use. So there's tools out there that blocks that, no matter what tool you use, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever that is. I can find that out, I don't know what it is. But if we had to do the same thing, it's very similar.
That'd be nice to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be really good information to have.
Do administrators use AI to write teacher evaluations?
I don't think so. I don't know, that's a good question.
Well, wouldn't that be confidential information?
Yeah.
Yeah,
As long as you don't type in a specific name, if you just said,
Well, but they do have names on them.
yeah, but if you're,
If you are writing maybe I
response.
watched a teacher do this today, do this today, do this today, can you put it into a paragraph that flows?
But it'd have a name on it,
you
wouldn't
wouldn't
it?
have to
No,
put the name.
you don't have to put a name on it at all.
You could add the name after you.
Yeah, because then you would just copy and paste it over.
But are they doing that?
I do think there are times that you probably go to, especially if you have notes like, teacher did this, or I would say for the most part though, using iObservation, it'd be very hard to go and use it would be very hard to go use ChatGPT So,
I don't know, I'm just curious.
yeah, I see teachers using it more. I've used it for recommendations to help do that, when I write down a list of everything the teacher has done, help me, but then I read through it and kind of say, okay, this is what, does it say what I want it to say, or what do I change, what do I take?
Is there a policy or any tools in place now for teachers to check students, making sure AI is not writing papers and turning them in, or
Yeah,
there is?
Yeah, and that is very hard.
Mhm.
and sometimes it catches it, sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. Mm-hmm, yes.
But there's an efficiency piece of AI that's a good thing too.
Mhm.
I'm gonna show you some here in the budget preview.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't wait for them. But,
Alrighty.
for instance, if a teacher had a student that they were, I don't know, wanting to try and challenge because the student was always meeting at this level, at a high enough level that they wanted to challenge, they could type in, I have a student that is excellent at geometric algorithms, can you give me a problem that will help challenge him? I'm making that up because I don't even know if that makes sense.
Right.
But, and it could give them a problem. Yeah.
Right.
I will say, I sat in a training last week, and, they said Gemini through Google, as long as it's under your VPS suite or whatever, it is secure. So, the trainer asked the Gemini trainer explicitly, can you put IEP information into this? And they said, yes, it is secure. She's not saying to do that, but, that should probably be the push that we push our staff to, is to use the Gemini. Gemini's just the Chat GPT Google version.
Mhm.
Under your VPS umbrella. It's secure. It doesn't put anything outside of our suite. It just uses other tools for it.
Like, we're supposed to use Microsoft Copilot, just
Right.
because it's built within the,
Yeah.
Microsoft.
But this one, Gemini is, like they're promoting it for schools,
Yes.
school use.
So that's where our goal is probably not to list it
No.
in this policy, because the thing is every time it changes, or all of a sudden, what do you know, we're now moving away from Google Suite. I
Gemini
mean,
2.0.
yeah, so what we wanna do is create a playbook, and that's why that's part of the strategic plan, is to create that playbook where it defines it even more, because a playbook can be updated just like that, a policy can. So, that's why, yes, Gemini is one of those that we know
well, I
is.
think the most important start of this is the, protected information, just
Yes.
spelling it out in policy, whether it happens or not, because you've covered this
Yeah.
and saying,
Right.
you cannot use it for specific student information.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And now the 2026-2027 budget review.
All right. So, before we start, we'll tell you that we've consolidated this for the committee of the whole purposes. You will get the full effect at the budget hearing, at the budget hearing in, the first week of September, first board meeting in September. So, 26, 27, remember this is the proposal. You can always tell me to change it if you want to. So, moving on, we have the goals for this budget cycle: maintain a student-centered educational program, preserve long-term financial stability, plan strategically for facilities and capital needs, maximize available resources while maintaining taxpayer responsibility. So those are the 4 goals that have kind of been forefront on my mind. Number 2, especially, preserving long-term financial stability. We are a school district that does not operate on an operating loan from month to month or year to year, nor do we ever want to be that. So, or put that off as long as we can, depending on what legislative changes are made that may force everybody to get there. But that's another story for another night. So, as we look at the proposed budget, this is what each fund looks like. So this would be in the paper. This would be the notice that would be in the paper. Each fund is listed down the side here. These are the actual numbers that are from the auditor. These are what the proposals or the estimated disbursements and transfers are for the current budget cycle that we're in that ends here next week or the week after. And then this is what the proposed budget would be for 26-27. Now, our budget authority, and you'll see this in the next couple of slides, but our budget authority went up about $2 million certified by the state to $36 million when you're talking just about the general fund. So we'll budget for that entire amount. And the reason for that is for unforeseen things that could happen. And it's just a rule of thumb that you always budget to be able to access that funding. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to spend it, but in the event of a tornado, a flood, a fire, a bus accident, a car accident, whatever the case may be, you want to have access to as much of that as you possibly can. So that budget authority is important. So total resources available before any property taxes is $21.2 million. Property taxes will make up about $15,083,131, which is actually not an accurate number because that includes the county treasurer's balance of 1%. And I'll peel that out for you here in a little bit, but that's in the general fund. So the three funds we're actually taxing in, the general fund, the special building fund, and the quality capital purpose undertaking fund are the three I'll be highlighting the most. But probably the most important information on this slide is right down here, and that is in terms of bond purposes or taxing for the purpose of something to do with a special function that's outside of what the state puts a lid on, we're taxing $621,212. That's the quality capital purpose undertaking fund. That also is not necessarily accurate because it includes a 1% county treasurer's balance. The non-bonded purposes, so that's basically the special building fund, the general fund and the special building fund, we are taxing $17,344,705 for a grand total of $17,965,917 of taxing tax requests this year. So that's what the budget. Each one of these numbers represents a budget number for each one of those funds. So that'll be in the newspaper. Okay. So if we start just honing in on the general fund budget on the expenditure side of things, and this comes directly from the LC2 or lid computation document that's provided by the Department of Education. The budget amount that they certify for us to be able to expend is $27,603,165. We have access to prior year's budget authority of $538,598. This year, they automatically allowed us to the early childhood education exclusion grant of $82,000, so that's nice, which brought our budget authority up to $28,223,763. When you factor in our $7.98 million of special education expenses, we're at $36,203,763 of budget authority. So that's where that number that I just showed you on the first page comes from. And again, that's all certified through the state. That's as much as we could possibly tap into unless we vote to exceed that. Well, that's as much as we could spend. Okay. General fund revenue side. Obviously, you have the expenditure side, which you just saw. Now we talk about the revenue side. If we have that many expenses, how do we pay for it? So where does the revenue, where's the input come from? Well, the beginning cash balance, which again is estimated because we don't actually know that number until we finalize this year's budget. Well, I estimate that we will have a starting balance of $7,530,796 when we end this budget cycle and start the next one. When we factor in state and federal inputs or revenue, we're at $9,143,755. Our state aid was a little bit of a surprise this year because we were originally tapped to get around 3.6 million, I think, or 3.9, but we had about a $612,000 prior year correction that gets added onto our state aid for next year, so that's kind of nice. So our state aid did not drop as much as it was I initially thought it was going to. So we'll have $4.3 million of state aid. So again, all of that revenue before taxes is $21,271,463. This number excludes the county treasurer balance, $36,203,763. So the expenditures are balanced by the revenue. That's how we get the money that we're gonna pay for it. Okay? So now we talk about the taxing side of things. How did the valuations come in and how did real growth come in? Because now in the state aid formula and the way that foundation aid to schools is factored or figured, real growth is almost more of a factor than valuations, but they both impact. Valuations for this year will be $2,140,521,481 for our school district. Real growth is $11,445,379, which is up slightly from the previous year of about $2 million. And I think we show that here in the next slide or so. Yep, real growth history. Way back when LB 243 started in the 23-24 school year, and real growth was the factor that helped put the lid on taxable valuation. They allowed TIF projects to be included in your real growth. 25-26, they took that out through legislation, and it dropped our real growth from 19 and 18 million down to 8. And then this year we grew a little bit because of the pipeline. As you drive to Lincoln, you see the pipeline coming in. That helped us grow a little bit to 11 million. So as that continues to evolve and we get new growth, as long as it's not TIF'd, it helps our real growth value. Okay? So, AI right here. In the past, we've always had to take this document, which is the tax notice, and we've had to scan it in, and we've had to draw all these little circles around it ourselves. But we put it into AI. I said, can you, I did this yesterday. I said, can you put circles around all these numbers, the general fund and the special building fund that all match? And by golly, it did, just like that. Took 5 minutes. As compared to what used to take Danielle and I about 2 hours.
It was painful.
It was very painful. So, as I told you before, this is the tax notice. It just basically tells us where we're gonna end up, assuming you approve everything. Last year's tax, property valuations, were 1.9 billion. This year they go up to 2.1 billion, which is 12% increase. In the general fund, last year our operating budget was 34.7 million. We requested 14.6 in property taxes. That was a levy rate of 77 cents. This year, our operating budget that I'm proposing, again, it's up. It's 36.2 million because that's what the state certified us at. Proposed property tax request is 15 million. Our property tax proposed rate will be 70 cents. So it's a 9% reduction in the tax rate. It's a 4% budget increase, but it's a 9% tax rate decrease. In the special building fund, last year, our operating budget was 5.5 million. Our property tax request was 2.2 million, and it was an 11.6-cent tax rate. This year, it's a 7.3 million operating budget. It's a 2.261 proposed tax request, and it's a 10.5-cent tax rate. So it's a 10% reduction in the tax rate. It's a 32% increase in the operating budget. And that's just for purposes of if we need to make any payments or want to do anything with the middle school or anything like that, we have the room to do it. In the QC Puff, this is one that we're trying to look out into the future and prepare a little bit ahead of time and give ourselves some room with. Last year, our operating budget was 2.3 million. The property tax request was 464,000, and it was 2.4 cents. This year, the operating budget is 1.5 million. The property tax request is 621,212, and it's 2.9 cents. We're capped at 3 cents with the QC puff. So the tax rate's a little higher because if we collect a little more in there, if we collect at that 3 cent rate, then there's a possibility we could pay it off sooner when we get out there. So it makes sense to do that. But the operating budget is actually less because we don't have to make that bullet payment this year that we had to make last year. That's why that operating budget number dropped. We still have to pay principal and interest on the QC Puff project that was done, but we can drop it. So at the end of the day, where does that put us? Well, last year, our final total property tax request was $17,369,817 for a tax rate of 91 cents. This year, we're proposing $17,965,917 for a tax rate of 83 cents, which is an 8% reduction in the tax rate and a 6% increase in the budget overall. So when all the numbers are in, everything's calculated, that's where we'd be at the end of the day. So it's a reduction in taxes for our citizens, our patrons. This is all the same information I just covered, so I'm not gonna go over it again. It's a mill levy tax reduction rate of 0.073 cents, but I do think it's important for the general public and for you to always understand that 1% of every fund that we collect taxes in, we don't get. And the reason that's important is because that's a chunk of money that could essentially pay for one educator in our district. So I just think that moving forward, always keep that in mind. So the difference without the county treasurer's collection, basically we're collecting $249,355 more dollars in the general fund, and in the special building fund, we're asking for about $39,352 more.
No questions, but I'm pretty sure we can pay our volunteers $8,000 round amount. Based on that, so,
We should be.
with all of that.
So,
And
next,
that keeps us from having to go to the joint public hearing.
yes, great questions. That keeps us from having to go to the joint public hearing. You know, I don't think this year it's going to be necessary. Who knows what next year will bring? I would have thought, I said last year, I thought we'd have to go this year. So, tells you my crystal ball isn't that.
Next year, everyone will have to go in July,
Well, that's true.
try to forecast
Yeah.
what their budget will be. Yes.
So the next step, obviously, there's two. I will be sending a tax statement from the Board of Education from Eric to the newspaper. He'll have a chance to review it. That basically covers all this information, and that way it's announced ahead of time. And then we will have the budget hearing before the next board meeting, first board meeting in September, for you to approve the budget and the tax asking, and then you, assuming you give that your stamp of approval, we'll be ready to send that off to the state. All good. Okay.
Since there's no public here, I'm guessing there will not be public comments. I don't see any public. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education